In today's video, we're going to do another edition of NHL Sign or Trade, where we take a look at 3 NHL players that are soon going to be needing new contracts and determine if their existing team should sign them to a longer-term extension or trade them. We'll get into that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. Now, as I mentioned, today's video is going to be another edition of NHL Sign or Trade, where we look at 3 NHL players that have contracts soon to expire, either during the current offseason or they're 1 year away from being a UFA, and we're going to determine if these teams should sign them to a long-term extension to make a big part of the team's future, or do they trade them while their value's high to get back other assets to help other parts of the team. Now, just a quick disclaimer as well, where I'm recording, there's a pretty intense thunderstorm going on outside, so if you hear any noise in the background, that's what it is. Let's hope nothing too serious is going on out there, but it doesn't sound too good. It sounds pretty intense, so let's hope for the best on that. Now, first up, we're going to look at Ryan Nugent-Hopkins of the Edmonton Oilers. Now, former first overall selection, 1 year away, making $6 million from being a pending UFA. Been a pretty good part of the team, really, since he's joined the roster. He's gradually improved. He's getting into those prime years right now. He's 27 years old. He'll be 28 next year. And obviously, this year was going to be a career year for him if the NHL wouldn't have paused the season. He was on pace for career highs, which is unfortunate for him that didn't happen, that the season had to be stopped because he was doing a marvelous job. He can be a center iceman. He can also play the wing and play with Leon or Connor on the side. So he's been a big, versatile piece here for the Edmonton Oilers. The only problem is they have a lot of money tied up between Draisaitl and McDavid, and is there going to be room for some other big-time contracts like Nugent-Hopkins longer term? Now, they have some other contracts they're going to probably have to decide on a little bit sooner, including guys like Ethan Bear, Kailer Yamamoto, and others. Matt Benning's another one, another RFA. They need to kind of determine their longer-term future here. Now, they're also going to need a backup goalie. Mike Smith's a pending UFA, so they either need to re-sign him or go in another direction. The other part of the Oilers' plans here too is that they're not overly deep at the center position where Nugent-Hopkins can do that. So I do think he's going to probably be looking for a raise based on his current performance. So it might be tricky to do, but I really think the Oilers need to find a way to keep him in the fold. We've seen some other younger forwards that they've drafted in recent years, like Eberle and Hall, be moved out. And I think a guy like Nugent-Hopkins, along with Draisaitl and McDavid, need to be a big part of this team's future. So I personally think that they should sign him to a longer-term extension. But of course, it's all going to boil down to money. You can't commit too much money in too many years to yet another player because they do need to have a supporting cast besides him and around the other guys to make this team competitive longer term, because they do have some other interesting prospects coming up that can certainly play a role in the team's future. But at the same time, like I said, they need to have money to be able to pay everybody and have a balanced team. So let me know what your thoughts are. Should Ryan Nugent-Hopkins be signed to a longer-term extension with the Oilers, or should they consider moving him in the final year of his deal to help address other areas of the team? Now, next up, we're going to take a look at Buffalo Sabres defenseman Brandon Montour, right shot defenseman. He's 26 years old, broke in with the Anaheim Ducks, had some pretty good years. He put up back-to-back 30-plus point seasons, was traded to Buffalo. Buffalo gave up a conditional first-round pick, which ended up being the first-round pick that they had of the San Jose Sharks, which ended up being number 29 overall. So they gave up a pretty good price to get him. Montour hasn't really fit, though. His numbers have been down with the Sabres. Doesn't seem to really fit with Ralph Kruger's system. They have more than enough defensemen. We've talked about this numerous times between himself or Colin Miller, Rasmus Ristolainen. One or two of these guys probably need to be moved out. They have more than enough capable NHL defensemen, and there's just not enough playing time to go around. And Montour could very well fetch one of the better returns. Either him or Ristolainen, in my opinion, would likely be the two that's going to bring back the best value. I know some think Miller should be the guy to go, and maybe he should, but I don't think he's going to get the return for you that a Montour or a Ristolainen will get you. But Montour could end up being that player. Like I said, I'm not sure, based on the systems and everything with the coaching staff, that things really fit good for him. And if they can get anything close to being comparable for that as a return, I think the restricted free agent defenseman should be the player who likely gets traded, so they can get other areas of the team addressed. They desperately need forward depth. They need help in that area. Jack Eichel is frustrated. They need to sign Sam Reinhart as well. But they have a few pieces there. Like they signed Jeff Skinner to a mega contract. He needs to bounce back. And they have some other pieces up there too. But for the most part, they are desperately lacking there. They do have some young, interesting prospects. They're going to get another decent high pick in the 2020 draft, which will help out as well. But overall, I think Montour could likely fetch them a potential top 6, maybe top 9 forward, someone who can score 20, 25 goals, or either that or another high pick in the draft, and go down that road of getting another solid young player. So I'm not sure what's best, but either way, I think I would lean more towards trading Montour if they're going to keep Ristolainen, one of those two players I think need to be traded to bring back a forward to really help out that area of the team. Next up, I want to take a look at Montreal Canadiens winger Tomas Tatar. I mean, he is a very interesting guy, put up career highs in Montreal this past year, and he didn't even get to play a full campaign because of the NHL pause. So he put up career highs and only playing 68 games. So, I mean, he certainly fit in quite well there. They got a good deal getting him from Vegas, and that return, he didn't really fit in well after being traded there from Detroit. Vegas gave up a pretty penny, too, to get him out of the Red Wings organization, and things just didn't work out there, but he's fit in nicely in Montreal. Has been a big part of their top six. But he's making $5.3 million. He's likely going to be looking for a decent size raise with a good number of years on a term extension. He's 30 years old, and you don't want to overpay for guys past their prime. You don't want to overpay for the past performance, essentially. You want to pay for future performance. Not to say that he wouldn't have a couple more years of really good productive hockey, but it's fair to say odds are that he would start to decline. So you want to be careful how you go about this. If he'll agree to a shorter term contract, maybe 3 to 4 years with a decent raise but not too much, maybe you keep him around. But there's been a lot of talk around him possibly being moved. I know there's a lot of different stances within the fan base whether or not he should be traded or not. There's, like I said, there's lots of talk amongst a variety of teams that they could have been looking at him before the deadline came and went. Of course, Montreal at that point wasn't in the playoffs. They will now compete in the 24-team format that's now being discussed for the summertime. But his performance there could impact his future with the team, whether or not he's signed or traded as well. Obviously, there's a lot of other decisions in Montreal, including Max Domi, who's an RFA, needs a new deal. They get some questions on the blue line. They have other areas that need to address. They have a good, solid, young group of prospects who can jump in here and hopefully build with this team over time. But, Tatar's well past that, and it's a matter of do you keep him around or do you sell high while his value is still good? Because clearly, in Tatar's case, hitting career highs at 30, it's just the odds are against him continuing to produce at that level. One of those things that we see a lot, and it's just a little bit of risk involved for the team. So I guess in your opinion, does Montreal sign Tomas Tatar? He's probably looking for a 4 or 5 year contract, would be my guess. Probably looking at around $6.5 million, maybe a little more, I'm not sure, but based on his recent performance, he might have priced himself out of Montreal, really. It's a possibility as well, because based on other discussions we've had about the Habs in recent days here, we looked at the possibility of them adding a left shot defenseman or maybe another top scoring winger as well. Like I know we talked about the possibility of them maybe being interested in Taylor Hall, but if they sign Tatar to a longer term contract, and I don't see that, likely, it's going to eliminate some other possibilities. So not really sure what do you do. Do you consider moving Tatar and going into free agency to try to bring in a top guy and address your defense? Or do you commit the money to a player who's played well with them over the last year and hope that continues on into the early part of his 30s? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments and we'll continue the conversation. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on new notifications so you don't miss any future content, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.